friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Samantha Marie, also known as SM Writing the Writer. I'm a freelance editor for indie authors as well as a soon-to-be self-published author. Today is Saturday, October 21st. It is 4:15 in the afternoon and I've been working on the outline for my vampire romance biting reviews since about 2 p.m. So, if you've been keeping up on my channel, I've been doing a 5 a.m. writing challenge throughout the month of Preptober, one that I plan to continue throughout the rest of the year, especially through my deadline for the draft for biting reviews. So this month I am using Preptober to prepare myself for NaNoWriMo, and things have been going really well. My 5 a.m. writing challenge I feel like it's been very successful. I'm much more grounded in my morning routine now, and I'm refocused on biting reviews in a way that I wasn't prior to starting this challenge. So technically we are on week 3 of this challenge. However, I've only made it to my desk one time this week at 5 a.m. and I believe that was on Tuesday. Things went great on Tuesday. And yeah, overall on Tuesday, I pretty much decided that I need to alter some of my main character's backstory and alter some of the scenes and the interactions that I had initially planned out because they take away from the overall heart of the story. And that's okay, I'm not mad about it. Realizing that it needs to go to strengthen what I'm trying to work towards, I'd rather know that now than later. So, because I'm a discovery writer, I've decided to give myself a list, a Preptober checklist, which I talked about a little bit in my last Preptober 5 a.m. weekly check-in challenge video thing. I'll link it for you here if you haven't seen it already, but I basically made a list of things to do or things that I want to have done before I head into NaNoWriMo, and I'm kind of just focusing on checking off as much of this as I can, and I want to do that by the end of this weekend. This is mostly because I haven't given a lot of time to my project this week, and so one of the things that I decided last week is that I'm going to dedicate one day a week to my project, which is going to be every Sunday, but because I haven't given a lot of time to my project this week, I'm only working on biting reviews this weekend. I want to get through a few points on this checklist, so I'm going to start with the easiest things. So overall, my goal at the end of this weekend is to spend time on my outline and going through this checklist. Because I'm a discovery writer, this checklist is just meant to help me really narrow down the things that I really need to know going into NaNoWriMo, and to make sure that I actually check those things off so I'm not struggling with it during the writing process. I don't want to create a space or like the opportunity for me to trip up in my drafting process if I don't have to. For me, this looks like getting very clear on the multiple romantic arcs that are in the story, trying to decide if there's going to be a third act breakup. I like third act breakups personally when they're done really well, but if I'm going to have a third act breakup, I need to know, because I need to make sure that I plan for that, because I don't want to have to work on that in editing, if I can avoid it. Probably can't, but whatever. I would just like to decide if there's going to be a third act breakup, what that's going to potentially look like, and just give myself a firmer idea of whether or not that's the way that I'm going to lean or not lean. And now that I say that, I think there will be a third act breakup of sorts. Yeah, I don't know how to really say that without giving anything away. So we're probably going to do that. I want to work on some scenes this weekend. And by work on some scenes, I just want to write out what I already know. I'm not trying to necessarily force myself to come up with anything new. I don't like having everything totally mapped out. My outline is mostly details that I already know and I don't want to forget. And it's primarily made up of character profiles and notes. So some of the small things that I really do want to figure out and definitely get to this weekend is to make a list of all my side characters, figure out who fits where in terms of whether they are a primary side character or like a secondary or tertiary side character, and just work out how much information I may or may not need to know about them. And usually, like very likely for me, this is just going to look like me jotting down a little bit of description for each of the side characters that I have. And these are people that will be interacting with my main character, but not necessarily be on page a lot or be like, they're important, but they're not super important. But I do want to know what they look like and have a sense of them. That way I don't have to spend time thinking about it later. So yeah, some of the things that I want to focus on also include naming things, like naming some locations, naming the hotel, which is a significant setting, naming magazines and imprints and small things like that that have to do with her job as a travel writer. And yeah, just all of those small world building details that I would like to avoid putting into brackets, honestly. But if it happens, it happens. But if I can come up with some placeholder names ahead of time, that would just be very helpful for me. And I have also basically listed the number of spicy scenes, where those spicy scenes need to more or less take place, and making sure that I have the right amount that makes sense for the story and isn't like overly done. So right now we are at potentially 7, but the way they will be set up will be, I don't know. So yeah, we've been working on one of the character profiles, and I want to do a little bit more work on it before I will officially let myself check it off the list as being good enough, and anything else added to it after the fact will just be bonus. But I want to get down the base of this character profile first. I want to work on some of the profiles for her 2 best friends, which are going to be significant characters throughout the novel, so I really want to get clear on them, and the friendship arcs that are going to take place between the 3 of them. And yeah, I really just want to lay out all the scenes that I know are going to happen and have them written down and more or less see where they fit within the overall story structure, so I can have a better sense of the areas that I need to be thinking about filling in as, you know, I work on the actual outline of the story overall. Right now, when it comes to actually outlining the story, I'm not doing any detailed work. I'm basically just setting up the scenes with like things that need to happen, the intention of it, the purpose it serves, who's in it. And I do tend to structure, when I write down my scenes, I just note the day of the week. I note kind of what the weather is, so I know how to dress my characters or describe their clothing accordingly, where it's taking place, who's in the scene, and the overall intention of the scene, and what the emotional arc of the scene is going to be. And as long as I have those things, that's usually enough for me. And so yeah, we're just going to focus on getting that out today. Currently, the outline is sitting at 8,100 words, and I predict that by the end of this weekend, we'll probably be hitting the 10K mark. Yeah, and overall, we're just going to focus on checking off as much of this 2-page list as we can, so that I can be caught up to where I would like to be going into week 4 of Preptober, and just so I could feel a little bit more creatively secure in the direction of the overall story. So anyway, I've been talking for a hot minute. It's now 10 minutes since I started talking, so I'm going to make some tea and then put on another episode of Ugly Betty, and then go ahead and get back to working on my outline. So Sunday was meant to be my date day with my project, and I swear it started off really well-meaning and well-intentioned, and I had every plan on starting my day at 5 o'clock in the morning and sitting down and spending the entire day with my project. However, the day and my bad attitude had a whole different plan, and the morning turned out to be really frustrating in that I feel like I kept trying to sit down and get something started with my project, and I was interrupted, or things just weren't going right for one reason or the other. So I resigned myself to taking the morning off, giving myself time to decompress, kind of reset myself and myself for the day. And so I tidied up my space a little bit, and then I sat back down to do some work and do my first sprint around like 4:30. I think I did like 15 or 20 minutes by myself. It wasn't really working out. I don't remember why, but it just wasn't clicking, which is fine because later that evening, I'm part of a Discord group and we run writing sprints every evening. And so that evening I was able to actually sit down and get back into my project and get back into working on the outline, which was really great because I was able to really sit down and dig into the miscellaneous scenes that I had written down and the things that I knew I needed to happen, and really took time to just break all of that apart and ask myself, like, what needs to happen in these scenes? What does this actually look like? Who's in it? All of these kind of things, and really break it down. So the evening sprints went really, really well. And even though I didn't close out the weekend at 10K, I'm still really glad with the progress that I ended up making Saturday evening. I feel like it made up for everything I didn't get to do throughout the entire day. And so by the end of that, we walked away with a good amount of things that I was actually able to check off of my to-do list in terms of prepping for Preptober. And I think overall in the evening, I walked away with about 13 scenes or chapters or something like that written out. And again, for me, these things aren't super detailed. It's just kind of like a summary of things that need to happen, what it needs to accomplish, or just like whatever information I have. I was also watching Shadowhunters because I had finished watching Ugly Betty. I forgot Ugly Betty ended in season 4, which was really dumb, by the way. But anyway, I switched over to rewatching Shadowhunters, which I forgot how problematic the story is in of itself. But yeah, I started watching Shadowhunters and I worked through some things for Carter's emotional arc and for his character, and I started working on the things that need to happen to bring him and Mallory together. And overall, I'm really glad. I started off at this point, I had a lot of chapters that were really from Mallory's point of view. Going into week 4, I'm really looking forward to figuring out where Carter's chapters fit in to the story structure, because I don't really intend to be a one chapter, this love interest, next chapter, that love interest. Like, it's not going to be a direct back and forth between the two of them. That's not my plan. I do intend to let Carter's point of view chapters be where they're most fitting, and where they just organically would fit and make sense in the story. And so I look forward to spending week 4 kind of figuring out where he fits and those bigger emotional connecting points for them. And yeah, even though the day started off a little bit rocky and I wasn't really sure how things were going to play out or if I was going to get to anything by the end of the day, I'm really glad that I gave myself space away from the project, time to reset. I think I just really needed time away from my desk and just my overall work environment for the day, because as you see, I have a desktop, which means I don't move. I work in the same spot every single day, all day. I don't get the variety of changing my settings, my setting in terms of like where I'm sitting down to work. So time away from the desk that day really helped, and the evening really went so well. I didn't break 10K like I thought I would, but I did go well over the 8K range, and heading into week 4, I'm really feeling good about it, and I'm really excited to kind of see what I come up with and the other scenes and stuff that I add to the story. So that's going to be all for this video. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Thank you guys all so much for showing my channel some love. And yeah, let me know how you're doing. Let me know how Preptober is going for you. Let me know what you're doing for Nano. And if you have any plotting or planning tips that you really like to use or that really help you when you're heading into Nano, I would love to know them and share them with the community down below. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video.